What is materialism? Materialism is the philosophical belief that the world is made of material and that there are no other types of entity or things. Everything is composed of materials. Things that are not made of material, such as consciousness, are the result of action by material. In other words, matter is the only real substance. Materialism meant that material world, perceptible to the senses, has objective reality independent of mind and spirit, or spirit rather. They did not deny the reality of mental or spiritual processes, but affirmed that ideas could arise, therefore only as products and reflections of material conditions. So we have here Democritus and Leucippus led a school whose primary belief is that the world is made up of and is controlled by the tiny invisible units in the world called atomos or seed. So when we say atomos, simply comes together randomly to form the things in the world. So Leucippus and Democritus were the earliest Greek atomists. So they are the originator of the atomic theory. Leucippus must be considered as a speculative thinker of the first order, but to Democritus must go on the credit for working out the detailed applications of the theory and supporting it with a subtle epistemology. Democritus knew that if a stone was divided in half, the two halves would have essentially the same properties as the whole. So therefore, he reasoned that if the stone were to be continually cut into smaller and smaller pieces, then at some point, there would be a piece which would be so small as to be invisible. He called the small pieces of matter atomos, the Greek word for invisible, as what I've said lately. In addition, Democritus believed that the atoms differed in size and shape, or in constant motion in a void. So they are collided with each other, and during these collisions could rebound or stick together. So therefore, changes in matter were a result of dissociations or combinations of the atoms as they moved throughout the void. So although Democritus' theory was remarkable, it was rejected by Aristotle, one of the most influential. We all know that Aristotle is the most influential philosophers of the ancient Greece, and the atomic theory was ignored for 2,000 years. So, dugay-dugay na sad siya. So, an example of materialism is like explaining the love in terms of material things. Another example is you are valuing a new car. You have a new car and you choose your car over your friendships. So the theory that physical matter is the only reality and that everything, including thought, feeling, mind, and will, can be explained in terms of matter and physical phenomena. Next is Hendonism. The term Hendonism is derived from the Greek hedon, meaning simply pleasure. In common language, Hendonism has come to mean devotion to pleasure as a way of life, especially to the pleasures of the senses, and is synonymous with sensualism, libertinism, debauchery, and dissipation. The Hedonists, for their part, see the end goal of life acquiring pleasure. Pleasure has always been the priority of Hedonists. For them, life is about obtaining and indulging in pleasure because life is limited. So when we say pleasure, pleasure or the absence of pain is the most important principle in determining the morality of a potential course of action. Pleasure can be things like sex, drugs, and rock and roll, but it can also include any intrinsically valuable experience like reading a book or a good book. So why hedonists always prioritize pleasure? So hedonism is philosophy that pleasure is the most important pursuit of mankind. And the only thing that is good for an individual is hedonist. Therefore, strive to maximize their total pleasure. Like the net of any pleasureless any pain or suffering. They believe that pleasure is the only good in life and pain is the only evil. And our life's goal should be to maximize pleasure and minimize pain. So an example of hedonism is a constant quest for pleasure and satisfaction. So you have to make your own way to satisfy yourself that okay, these things can make you happy and it's really satisfying yourself because we have only one life and we need to enjoy. So we have to live fully happy and have a satisfaction of the things that we do that makes us happy. So we need to enjoy life because we only live once. So that is the overall of the hedonism. We have here the Stoicism. The name Stoicism comes from the Stoa Poikile. Today, we colloquially use the word stoic to mean someone calm under pressure and avoid emotional extremes. But while this captures important aspect of Stoicism, the original philosophy was more just an attitude. The Stoics believed that everything around us operates according to a web of cause and effect, resulting in irrational structures of the universe, which they called logos. The Stoics exposed the idea that to generate happiness, one must learn to distance oneself and be apathetic. So, is it apathetic? When we say apathetic, it is a void of feeling, not susceptible of deep emotion, passionless, and indifferent. So, this kind of person is very indifferent compared to others because he or she is not showing himself like he's kind of person that is focuses more in a positive side compared to a negative side. So he don't really cares of something. Ang iya lang care is herself, her inner peace, his peace of mind. The original term of apatheia precisely means to be indifferent. So when we say indifferent, it is that having a lack of interest on something or a people or anything, enthusiasm or concern for something. So he or she again is very indifferent to others. Diba kay ang uban, they really care for something and ang uban pod, their mode is like a stoic person. So they are more emotionless. They don't show their emotions or expose their emotions to other people in front of other people. So they are very stoic. So also next is for the Stoics, happiness can only be attained by careful practice of apathy. So kumbaga imo gilasan imo pag-feel og emotions or unsa kay gusto kag sort of inner peace, which in return makakuha kag happiness. So for example, mag-away mo sa imong sa imong best friend, but you choose to sabto nimo siya because in ana iyang batasan. So you need to have your inner peace, so you need to be calm and you don't like to dili ka gusto mag-show kag emotions, like lots of emotions. So you need to be more in a stoic person or in stoic mode. Wala siya. Like you have lots of mga activities and then you're very drained, but you are in a mode of you choose to be happy compared of choosing to be stressed of the activities na you need to be you need to accomplish in an early time. So gusto nimo na naa kay inner peace, gusto ka makuha happiness, so mo na imo choose to be a stoic person compared to a person na very emotional, drama, and very more talkative. But ikaw as a stoic person, instead of arguing of something that is kanang dili na siya kailangan i-big deal, you need to be more calm, kind, and silent because you're choosing yourself and to have a inner peace, and dili kang gusto ka ng mga kanang daghan pagunhaw naon. So you are not choosing stress over happiness. So you choose happiness. You choose, imo gipili ang happiness kumpara maging stress of something. So that is the meaning of Stoicism. Theism. What is theism? So theism, it is a belief in the existence of a divine reality. They usually referring to monotheism, as they believed one God, as opposed to pantheism, they believed all is God. Polytheism, they have many gods, and atheism, without God. So theistic religions such as Christianity, Islam, and Judaism all have their monotheistic belief in a God, whereas a polytheistic religion such as Hinduism holds a belief in many gods. Okay, most people find the meaning of their lives using God as a fulcrum of their existence. So the Philippines, as a predominantly Catholic country, is witness to how people base their life goals on beliefs that hinge on some form of supernatural reality called heaven. The Philippines we all know, is unique among its neighbors in the Southeast Asian region in that the majority of Filipinos identify as Christian. So they have 92.5% Christianity. We have here there continues to a process of cultural adaptations and synthesis of Christianity into local culture since the introduction of the religion into the Philippines. The denomination of Christianity that become most embedded in the Philippine culture is Catholicism, which was introduced in the Philippines during the early colonial period by the Spanish. Catholic ideas continues to inform beliefs throughout Filipino society such as sanctity of life and respect for hierarchy. As a branch of Christianity, Catholicism believes in the doctrines of God as the Holy Trinity comprising the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Like most Catholics, many Filipinos accept the authority of the priesthood and Roman Catholic Church, which is led by the Pope. Next is we have the ultimate basis of the happiness for theists is the communion of God. So which is communicating to God is the way for us Filipinos to feel the happiness because I can feel that where you having a communication to God, you feel loved and happy at the same time. When we say communion, it refers to a God's communication and presentation of Himself to us, together with our proper response to Him with joy, as what I've said kaganina. We say with joy because it would not be communion if God revealed Himself in total wrath and we were simply terrified. That would be true revelation and a proper response, but it would be but it would not be considered as a communion. Communion assumes that God comes to us in love and that we respond joyfully to the beauty of His perfections and the offer of His fellowship. He may sometimes come with a rod of discipline, but even our tears, we can rejoice in the Father's loving discipline. Communion with God may lay us in ashes or make us leap, but it never destroys our joy, because it is our joy to communicate with Him. While communicating with Him, we can feel joy, happiness, and feel loved, because we all know, we Filipino people know that God loves us very well, unconditionally. So that is the meaning of theism, of what or unsa man siya ang theism. The last one is humanism. Humanism is a rational philosophy informed by science, inspired by art, and motivated by compassion. Affirming the dignity of each human being, it supports the maximization of individual liberty, an opportunity constant with a social and planetary responsibility. It advocates the extension of participatory democracy and the expansion of the open society, standing for human rights and social justice. Humanism, as another school thought, espouses the freedom of man to carve his own destiny and to legislate his own laws, free from the shackles of a God that monitors and controls. So ang humanism, mao na ang philosophy na ang humans ang mubuhat sa iyang kaugalingon destiny, why superior force na nag-govern sa iyaha. Wa kay Ginoo, universe, wa kay stars, wala kay horoscope, which is human action jud tanan. It is free of supernaturalism because it recognizes human beings as a part of nature and holds the values, be they religious, ethical, social, or political, have their source in human experience and culture. Humanism thus derives the goals of life from human need and interest rather than from theological or ideological abstractions, and asserts that humanity must take responsibility for its own destiny. So imo jud kaugalingon, ikaw man naghimo sa like ang destinations, your own actions. As a result of the motivation of the humanist current, scientists eventually turned to technology in order to ease the difficulty of life, as illustrated in the previous lessons. The concept of technological humanism encompasses a wide spectrum of ideas, and such as it is difficult to define. In general terms, it can be described as a philosophy or ideological current that focuses on the intersection between ethics and technological innovation. In this sense, it defends the responsible use of innovation technology for the benefit of the society and promotes innovation through ethical channels that ensures the development of the human being. So, muna siya. In order for us to have an easy life, so muna siya ang technology as we observe now, na kay technology na nakahelp sa atong life. It makes our life more easier because of the technology that is invented. Whether or not we are agree with these technological advancement, these are all undertaken in the hopes of obtaining the good life. The balance, however, between the good life, ethics, and technology has to be attained. Generally, ang pasabot ani is kay bisag di taganahan sa mga gipangbuhat sa mga inventor, sa mga hindi mo sa advancement, ato gyapon siya gi-consider na ang ilang goal kay para to make our life more better ang atong kinabuhi. So they invent this kind of technology to make our life more easier. So di pa kaana na mas easier pa ang atong pagbuhat sa mga butang, dili ta mahasol. Pero dapat balance lang ang good life, ethics, and technology. Kaya sometimes ang ethical man ang pangbuhaton para lang makuha ang good life of technological advancement without knowing na daghang tag maapektuhan. So we as kuan dapat ang imong gi-invent is very useful na dili siya masubraan, dili siya maka-harm of anything, masubraan siya og himo na nanay maapektuhan. So, when you invent a technology, you must know the consequences of kung unsa man ang maapektuhan ay na when you invent this kind of technology, what is the kanang effects or the cause, I mean the effect if you build this kind of technology na wala ba'y maapektuhan. But, overall, yes, 100% technology, the technology that is created by the inventors can help our life more easy. So, muna siya ang the whole explanations of the humanism and also along with the technology.